Hello and welcome to another episode of Editorial. I am Shubham Chohan, filling in for our managing editor Sujit Nair. We have two topics for you today. First, about Delhi Chief Minister and Aam Aadmi Party Chief Arvind Kejriwal. A special court in Delhi, in its verdict, said that the Enforcement Directorate isn't acting without bias. The court has made some interesting observations and flagged loopholes in the ED's investigation into the case. So we'll focus on that verdict and how that issue is panning out. A second topic is exam leaks and cancellations. NEET, UGC-NET, CSIR UGC-NET, major national exams. The future of about 3.5 million students remains uncertain and several questions remain unanswered. So without wasting any time, let's get started. Let's start with the Kejriwal story first. The Chief Minister of Delhi was back in Tihar jail on 2nd June after his interim bail came to an end. On Thursday night, that is 20th of June, a special court in Delhi granted him bail. Celebrations erupted soon after. AAP workers across the country were seen rejoicing as their leader would step out of jail. But not to be. The very next day, the ED went to the Delhi High Court seeking a stay on his bail. ED lawyers say that they weren't given enough time to argue in the lower court. Reportedly, the agency even called the lower court's verdict perverse. The Delhi High Court then said it wants to hear arguments from both sides and will give its verdict next week. But until then, the lower court's verdict has been stayed. So effectively, Arvind Kejriwal will continue to remain in Tihar jail for at least a few more days. AAP leaders slammed the probe agency and the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party for targeting the Aam Aadmi Party and Mr. Kejriwal. Meanwhile, a copy of the lower court's verdict is out, and it has made some key and interesting points which we will look at. Broadly, the court says that there is no concrete evidence against Kejriwal, and keeping the principles of fairness and justice in mind, he should be granted bail. Justice Nyay Bindu pointed to several loopholes and ambiguity in the ED's case. Now, there will be a lot of reading here, so we'll have the quotes running on the screen for you. First, the lower court's verdict said that the money trail is yet to be clearly established. Out of the 100 crore that was allegedly laundered, the court says that only 40 crore rupees has been traced. No word on the remaining amount and when that will be done. The verdict says, and I quote, "On this aspect, ED has failed to clarify as to how much time is required for tracing out the complete money trail," meaning thereby that until and unless this exercise of tracing out the remaining amount gets completed by the ED, accused, which is Mr. Kejriwal, is supposed to remain behind bars, that too without proper evidence against him. This is also not an acceptable submission of ED. Basically, saying that if the agency is leveling charges of money laundering, it needs to prove the money trail in its entirety. And if that process is not complete, to have the accused, which is Mr. Kejriwal in this case, still in jail would be unacceptable. Then, it even talks about the ED's silence on the details of the charges the agency themselves have made. I'm quoting again, "This is also noticeable that ED is silent about the facts as to how the proceeds of crime have been utilized in the assembly elections at Goa by AAP, as admittedly after about 2 years. The bigger portion of the alleged amount remains to be traced out." Next, on the big point that made headlines. Now, during the course of the hearing, the ED lawyer had said that investigation was an art. The court in its verdict rejected that statement completely and said that any person can be implicated and kept behind bars by artistically procuring the material against him after artistically avoiding/withdrawing exculpatory material from the record. Essentially, saying that one can falsely be framed on serious charges if art was what it was really about. And lastly, the judge made a point that was almost like a reminder to the probe agency. And I'm quoting again from the verdict. "It seems that ED also believes that the evidence on record is not sufficient to proceed against the applicant, which is Kejriwal, and it is taking time to procure the same in any manner whatsoever to convince the court with respect to the availability of the evidence against the applicant. The investigation agency should be prompt and fair so that it can be perceived that the principles of natural justice are also being followed by the agency." Prompt and fair. That's the key word. Now, given the ED's track record in the last few years, such a remark does become significant, and rightly so. There have been questions on the institution's autonomy, integrity, and how it is just reduced to being at the mercy of the ruling government. And the numbers speak for themselves. 95% cases by ED since 2014 have been against opposition leaders. And I'm not for once saying that Mr. Kejriwal is innocent. That's for the courts to decide. But like several legal experts have pointed out, there's an urgent need to look at the use or misuse rather of powerful laws like the PMLA against political rivals. PMLA is the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. The act is designed in a fashion where the bail process is stringent and requires the accused to prove to the trial court that he or she is not guilty. So like in Kejriwal's case, Manish Sisodia's case, and so many others, the investigation from the agency will take years. Till such time, the accused will be in jail. How fair is that? In fact, even politicians have spoken up about this. And I'm not citing opposition leaders here, but leaders who were once in opposition but now very much in government, like Andhra Pradesh and Bihar Chief Ministers Chandrababu Naidu and Nitish Kumar respectively. Both have heavily slammed the BJP for misusing ED in the past, but now being active stakeholders in the central government itself, to which the ED reports, the tone of these leaders doesn't quite seem to be the same. Many have even raised questions on the judiciary as well. On one hand, a High Court grants BJP leader and ex-Karnataka Chief Minister B.S. Yediyurappa bail even before his arrest. He's a leader who is accused of sexual harassment and protection of children from sexual offences or under the POCSO Act. In that case, the court says he is not some quote-unquote Tom, Dick and Harry. But by the looks of it, that same yardstick doesn't seem to be applying for other sitting and former chief ministers elsewhere. Let's move on to the next topic now. For starters, let me give you a number. 3.5 million students, 35 lakh youngsters. Keep that number in mind as we go along because that's how many people it really impacts. 3 national exams are in the eye of the storm. The NEET issue is already all over the papers. The fact that several irregularities were apparently found in India's medical entrance exam is worrying. From 67 people getting a perfect score of 720, which has never been the case in a single NEET exam's history, to many toppers being from the same center, to preponing the results itself that coincided with the Lok Sabha election results and the allegations of paper leaks. Students are out on the streets demanding justice. The Education Ministry, in a typical knee-jerk reaction, said, initially, all allegations of corruption are unfounded. Then, this week, there was more action. On Wednesday, the UGC-NET exam was cancelled one day after it was held. The reason given was that the integrity of the exam itself was compromised. And on Friday, the CSIR UGC-NET exam has been postponed to 27 June. Logistic issues and unavoidable circumstances are being cited as the reason. Now, the first exam, that is NEET, is for admissions to MBBS, BDS, Ayush and other courses in colleges across the country, for doctors essentially. And the other 2 are for determining eligibility for junior research fellowships and assistant professor positions in universities in India. So extremely significant that way these exams are. So who's responsible for these exams in the first place? The National Testing Agency, or NTA. It comes under the Education Ministry. And what is their job? Pretty simple and straightforward. Conduct tests in an efficient, transparent and international standard tests. Clearly, none of the 3 parameters seems to have been followed. The fact that the sanctity of these exams itself has been breached is significant and a cause of concern. And even the fact that paper leaks are still so rampant. Data shows that 70 paper leaks have happened in the last 7 years across 15 states, ranging from recruitment to board exams. And this has affected a total of 1.7 crore aspirants. 1.7 crore aspirants. That's a big number. That even a board exam paper can't be prevented from being leaked online says something about our education system. So what's the solution? For starters, some answers. The government has a lot of it to do. Denial, cosmetic changes or statements will not really help the cause.
करना चाहता हूं, सरकार छात्रों के हितों को सुरक्षित करने के लिए प्रतिबद्ध है। पारदर्शिता के साथ हम कोई समझौता नहीं करेंगे। विद्यार्थियों के हित हमारी प्राथमिकता है। किसी भी कीमत पर उसके साथ समझौता नहीं होगा।
Some suggest a re-exam should be held altogether if a paper is leaked. But that brings a set of logistic issues like the academic calendar and admission schedule that will be all over the place if exams are shifted or the dates are really shifted. And lastly, spare a thought for these students. The mental stress aspirants have to go through. First, working and preparing with extreme dedication over a period of weeks for these exams spending so much of their hard work and money to ensure that they get the job they want or enter the college they want to, only to be let down by our education system, or the fact that one corrupt official here and there ensured that the paper was leaked or something else happened. These signs aren't encouraging, and the fate of millions of youngsters hangs in the balance. That's all we have for this episode of Editorial. Do let us know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching.
Stay ahead with our cutting-edge news app. Instantly access the latest shorts in just 1 minute and breaking news in just 50 words. Download now for a smarter, faster news experience.